Hello, 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 everybody. Hopefully we're live here, going over the Dolphins, getting absolutely embarrassed by Seattle. I mean, I did expect them to lose to the Seahawks, but I really wanted it to be closer and at least put up a fight. But there was a lot of glaring issues yesterday that we'll get into. I got a lot of notes here. I've now watched the film too. I did the offensive breakdown with Skylar. Tomorrow I'm gonna do. I didn't get to do the whole offense. So I'm gonna do like tomorrow when like Tim Boyle came in, but also the defense. Which the defense we'll talk about as well. I think they did I think they had a pretty good day. Like other than that one big touchdown, which was mainly just on Javon Holland. I think the defense had a pretty solid day. Like it's definitely not on them. It was just a really poor offensive performance all around. Wasn't a good game from McDaniel. And we'll get into that. Skylar maybe played about bad quarterback play as I have seen in a long time. So that obviously really starts with that. Game was something alright. What do you think will be starting QB next week? I hope it's Tyler Huntley. If Tyler Huntley is ready, it should be Huntley. I'm going to talk about it, but I think the Dolphins need to simplify the game plan. I think it's actually like really bad, like malpractice that they put out Skylar there trying to do the same plays that they run with Tua. It was never going to be the same. This is problems they ran into in San Francisco, actually, before they found Brock Purdy, which they got pretty lucky with. If Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't playing for them, they were like always really struggling with QB play because the system is very specific. It's very hard to find players that fit that specific scheme. And obviously running the ball more should have been a priority, but also just like the passing concepts need to be simpler. And I think they kind of did. When Tim Boyle came in the game, some of the passing concepts were more simple, just like getting the ball out quickly. Obviously, he looked way more comfortable than Skylar did. But like that, I think there's a reason for that was because it was just kept simpler. But I do believe it should be Huntley. If not, I'm expecting better QB play next week. I will talk about it. I think the Titans game, the next three games are all still very winnable. Like I know it's like, I understand like being upset. It was definitely very disappointing and like thinking the season's over. Definitely don't disagree. But the next three games are all still very winnable. Like the Dolphins look like one of the worst teams in the league, but then the next three games are all some of the worst teams in the league. So they can go either way. Like if you lose next week, then the season is like truly over. It's like, okay, you're losing to the Titans when Will Levis has been playing like that at home. That's when it's like, oh yeah, the season is chalked at that point. We get 8-9 up the field. Yeah. Oh yeah, Flum. I mentioned that in my video. Like every drive, not even like almost every single drive. I'm not even kidding. It was maybe like a couple drives that didn't happen, but almost every single drive, the first two plays would gain like 10 yards, 15 yards. They get around midfield and then they would just collapse, whether it was a sack when we should have been running the ball anyways. If they were going to throw the ball, I understand trying to throw the ball after getting some successful runs because teams try to adjust defensively. But if you're going to throw the ball, it should have been quick passing so you don't get the sack and ruin your momentum. But we were trying to do too many things. And that one play I talked about, we didn't even have the running back in the backfield. So like there was no play action even to it. Like, so that bothered me. And then there was stupid penalties across the board. Like really unfortunate play. We get an 8-9. Was Javon Holland the slot in the second half? I'm gonna go like I watched the defense pretty quickly, so I will do a rewatch of the defense. I remember there was a certain drive in the second half where the Dolphins had like a 3 safety look out there. So I think he might have been getting some work in the slot, but I don't know if it was the entire second half. Ramsey looked really good. Ramsey looked way better than the first 2 games, which is a good sign, obviously. Sealer played really good. Calais Campbell played really good. Deshaun Hand had a sack. So like the D-line stepped up. I liked seeing that. There were still some inconsistencies on defense all around. We lost some players to injury. Like Kendall Fuller's a big loss. I feel like Fuller's been the best DB. He got injured with a concussion. Who knows when he'll be back. Storm Duck also got injured. I believe Alec Ingold got injured. Obviously Skylar. David Long got a hamstring injury. Teron Armstead is injured, which, to be fair, Kendall Lamb, that was the best Kendall Lamb's looked at in a long time. I think Kendall Lamb had one of the better games for the offense. He actually played pretty consistent all around, like run blocking, pass blocking, which was nice to see. Hold on. Is it arrogance or just plain stupidity on the part of McDaniel to attempt to replicate what Tua does with Skylar? Yeah, I mean, to me, I understand to an extent trying to do some of the same things because you have to keep defenses honest. but like the running game was working. If you look at I think I saw someone tweet the stats out. Let me see if I found it. I think it was okay, so yeah, Kyle Krabs tweeted this. He said Dolphins have 24 runs on the season off the left and right ends, like outside runs, and they're averaging 2.63 yards per carry on outside runs, which is bad. But on all other gaps, they're averaging 4.29 yards per carry, and their best plays, I think, have all been running between the tackles. Like, they've been running well between the tackles. I think people have kind of been underrating that part of their game. Like, it doesn't even matter the running back. It's looked good with Achane. It looked good with Jalen Wright. It's looked good with Jeff Wilson. We haven't really seen Mostert yet this season, other than, a few snaps. But I think just pounding the ball down the interior needs to become the identity of this offense. Like, you need to have a full reversal. And then, like, some of those outside runs you can still do, but that needs to become less common stance. You can still do some of the passing concepts, but it should not be, like, the main part of the offense. So, yeah, I just disagreed with the game plan. Like, if you look at the Packers, what the Packers did, their first game, they ran the ball so much with Josh Jacobs. Versus the Colts, they ran the ball a bunch. And then versus the Titans last week, they knew, like, the Titans are going to sell it to stop the run, and they actually allowed their quarterback to get really favorable looks, and then Malik Willis started throwing the ball and putting up good passing numbers. It's not like Malik Willis is a good passing NFL quarterback, but his life was made so much easier because they were able to establish the run because they committed to it so much the other game. So I think in this first game, they had to establish the run. If they wanted to start mixing in those passes, it was just not the right time to do it. Apparently, the offense had negative 25 EPA, so, like, they were 25 expected points added under, like, so they left a lot of points out there. Skylar's worst pocket I've ever seen, no joke. Probably. Skylar on the practice squad. I mean, I personally, Skylar got injured too, so, like, the rib injury, I don't think he should ever play again. And, I don't want to, harp on the kid too much because I know he's going out there and trying his hardest, and he took a beating. It's just he's not built to be an NFL player. Tim Boyle looked better, and Tim Boyle is not good. So to me, I'm trying to roll Tyler Huntley out there. At least I now know, like, hey, if Tim Boyle has to come in, like, he at least looked decisive and better than Skylar. It wasn't perfect by any means. I'll have a video of that tomorrow where I just look at, like, the offense once Tim Boyle came in, because I want to focus on, like, what changed schematically. Also, Eskridge came in, who had, like, a nice little 30-yard catch. I thought Dwayne Eskridge off the practice squad at receiver, he actually looked pretty explosive in his routes. I feel like he looked better in that. Like, it's obviously very small sample size, so I don't want to put too much on that, but he looked more explosive on those routes than he ever looked in Seattle. Yeah, Miami only team this year to not have a lead in the game. I saw that. Yeah, I wrote down the right thing. Jalen Wright had 2 quality runs, and then we just didn't incorporate him again. And they were both, one was to the outside on, like, a toss, the other one was interior, like, I think it was a power, and he looked good. He got downhill in a hurry. He adds a little bit of a different dynamic than Achane. They're obviously both very explosive, but I think he can deliver a little more of a punishment to defenders because he's got a little more size to him. Plus, I think just getting him more touches, getting him more of a feel, I think it also helped keep Achane healthy. He also, like, Dolphins came out in some interesting looks where they had, like, a fast package on the field where they would have Achane and Wright. The 2 receivers would be Waddle and Tyreek, and then the tight end would either be Jonnu Smith and Tanner Connor, and the offense looked fast, and it had some of their most explosive plays in those scenarios, but we would only run it for, like, one play and then switch it up. So I definitely want to kind of, maybe use that package a little bit more, but also I would like to play some physical football. I think having that package, that speed package, I think you can do a lot out of it. It doesn't, like, I think you can play some physical football and run downhill with it too, just because there's going to be a lot of space created. Then I also think you can make big explosive plays. And I think if you mix that with, like, some of your 22 where you have, the bigger tight ends on the field, it's Alec Ingold's blocking. I think you can play 2 different brands of football and be effective in those. It's just the Dolphins have not found consistency because clearly in that game, like, they would move the ball first 2 plays, they get to midfield and then forget either how to call plays or execute. I think the real problem is this offense is so hard to execute just pre-snap. Like, you have to, like, really be fit for this offense. Like, Tua is, like, doing so much pre-snap, and there's so much little things too. Like, even when you're handing the ball off, or like there's so much, like, little manipulations you have to do. You have to have, like, the ball handling skills. It's just Skylar looks uncomfortable doing that, and that even hurts the offense. Yeah, I'll saw a lot of heavy boxing. Could you look at film? Yeah, I don't have the film pulled up. I mean, I broke down the film already. I have a video earlier if I broke down the offense. If you guys want to watch that out. But honestly, I don't think it was anything like they were getting heavy boxes at certain times, but like the Dolphins ran the ball well for most of that game. Like most running plays were successful, except on like short situations. Basically, the only time Seattle stacked the box is when the Dolphins got either 2nd and 1 or 3rd and 1, and the Dolphins had like no success because they kept trying to do the fullback dives and stuff like that, and that didn't work. I think they just need to keep it more simple. Like interior runs, like just a power to Achane has had pretty good success. It doesn't have to be Achane. It could be Wright. It could be Wilson. Whatever. Well, I got to play the preseason basic concept plays. Yeah, that's definitely a reason I think it kept simpler for him. But it wasn't all just preseason concept plays. There was a few. He just looked way more comfortable than Skylar. But I don't think he should start next week, by the way. I think it should be Huntley. Hill looked bad. All Dolphins fans who are talking bad about Julian Hill are dumb. Well, I've seen people say they should cut Julian Hill. That is harsh. Like, I don't think people realize, like, Julian Hill, even though he's had a lot of dumb penalties, and he definitely needs to clean that stuff up. But he is still the best blocker. Like, he's still the best blocking tight end and actually has positive reps. He's just been far too inconsistent. And the only reason is if like Durham Smythe was playing consistent football, then yeah, I'd rather have Durham out there. But Durham's missing big play opportunities too. And then Jonnu is really only a receiving tight end. He's done a good job, I think, when he's gotten his targets the past 2 games as a receiver. But he's not going to give you too much in the running game. So that's why I've always talked about, like, I wanted, like if somehow Brock Bowers fell to the Dolphins, that would have been like a dream, because I think getting a tight end that's like a actual well-rounded one that can do everything. Like the Niners have Kittle. If you could find someone like that, it's obviously not easy. That's why I've been looking at that in every draft, trying to find that type of player. Super slow process. Yep. Not sure if came to consistently run gap. They successful run gap because teams sell out for wide zone runs. I actually think that offense can do it, because I think, surprisingly, I know people will shit on the offensive line, but Robert Jones and Liam, I think, are actually at their best on gap scheme runs. I think that's where they're at their best. Like, I think they're better there in the zone, and I think they're better there than in pass protection. I think Brewer can do anything in the run game. I think he's just a super good run blocker. I think Jackson is also a guy that does a good job down blocking. And then you have Armstead, who's ever at left tackle. So I actually think the offense is built pretty well to run gap scheme runs. I know having the teams selling to the outside zone definitely helps. But I think that's honestly what they've done best so far. Maybe Achane's more built for the outside stuff, but he's looked good running on the interior. If you go back to his Texas A&M film, they ran a lot of gap scheme, and he always looked comfortable there. His footwork's really good. If he has space to work with, like, he's gonna, combine move pretty well, I think. So I would love to see more of it personally, especially, I mean, Jalen Wright's used to it. Oh, this proved to me as LaFleur over McDaniel. I mean, it's definitely being shown that way. I'm not going to be like, because people are saying, like, fire everybody all at this point. To me, we play out the season. It's still only 3 weeks in. Obviously, I'm feeling more down on the team than ever. I'm feeling a little pessimistic, but also at the same time, it's like, let's see how the season plays out, because things can change very quickly. It's not like they're in the greatest position ever, but teams have started 1 and 2 before and turned things around. It's just the Dolphins look really rough. So it's not like I'm super optimistic about it, but let's see how it plays out, Let's see if they can do something about it. Because they have had good moments in the past. It's just, you look at McDaniel's record with Tua, and it's very good. If you look at it without Tua, it's not good. So if they can win 2 out of these next 3, which I think is possible, not putting too much on that, but just because the teams they play are bad, maybe they can get some type of confidence or momentum, realize something new, but we'll see if they ever actually adjust. I was talking about Tyreek. Oh, wait, did you say Hill earlier or something about the Julian thing? Yeah, I was just responding to what someone said. But yeah, Tyreek has not looked super great this season. That one drop. I think firing Crossman makes sense. It shows a little accountability. I'm not against that, Scotty, because I think Crossman was already on the outs last season, and the special teams, like, how many penalties are we going to have on special teams? Ridiculous amounts. Actually, that's not a bad shout to be like the first move to be like, hey, we got to be better. And I don't mind, like, giving certain players like, hey, you're not stepping up. Like someone else is going to get a chance right now. And if you get a chance again, you better play better. Like I don't mind doing that type of thing. Like something definitely needs to change. Why did we use right the first drive and barely the rest of the game? Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I really don't understand that one. I mean, I'm not. It's, you know, you can always speculate. Either it's just bad coaching, or maybe he doesn't know the playbook fully because he's young and a rookie. But I'm not. I just think it's like, get the guy in there. I feel bad for Ramsey. Locked down his son down. Yeah, well, Metcalf's big play came against Javon Holland. No, they will lose next week. I don't know if I would say they will lose. I definitely think it's possible they'll lose, but like, if you guys have watched the Titans, the Titans are very, very bad. The Titans' right tackle might be one of the worst players in football right now, so you can definitely, I think, beat Tennessee at home, but I wouldn't put money on it though. All needs to be a left tackle over Lamb. I'm perplexed. I mean, Scotty, Lamb played pretty well that game. I ain't gonna lie. Lamb actually was probably one of the better offensive players. Even though I would like to see Paul, but we'll see. Is 2 out 4 games or 4 weeks? 4 games, so he will miss the next 3 games, even though we have a bye after the next 2. See, I don't know if I don't think this is true. I feel like he has not. We don't know. Like, there's 5 stages to the concussion protocol. I see way too much speculation about the Tua thing. Like, just because there's been some reports that he was cleared to fly in a plane does not mean he was cleared through the 5 stages of concussion protocol to actually play. Plus, there's also other reasons for that. Plus, I don't think unless we're some doctors in here, I don't know. I just don't want to speculate on that. Giants aren't good, but they've been pretty competitive other than yesterday. Yeah, but they were competitive versus the Bears, then absolutely collapsed, and they were competitive versus the Jets, and also collapsed with Will Levis making some of the worst plays I've ever seen. So it's not like they were playing super tough opponents. And then they got blown out by the Packers with a backup QB. So I think they're definitely beatable, especially when it's in Miami. But with how the Dolphins have looked, I don't have too much faith in that. But I'm just saying it can potentially... I've read it's up to 2. I don't believe... I don't know. There hasn't been enough... There hasn't been an actual report yet that like has said like Tua is cleared to play. There's been reports that he's cleared to like fly, and like, I don't know. There's been a bunch of nonsense what people are saying. So there's way too much context, I feel like, being left out for a lot of the things being thrown out. The answers to the offensive struggles seem so obvious. Why doesn't Matt McDaniel implement them? Well, I mean, it's not like completely obvious. Like, there's obviously a lot that goes into a game. It's not just always just simple as not everyone's going to call the perfect play in every single situation. Also, the Dolphins' offense is just very complicated, so it is tough to just completely switch up what you're doing. But sometimes the players don't, play as well as you want them to in those situations. I don't know. I mean, hopefully he can switch it up and do better, but it's definitely been rough. Titans are built to stop gap run, best interior D-line in the league. Good luck to us. Yeah, the Titans are better at stopping the run. That's why it was wait, what? Daniel IR is weeks, not games, if that helps. No, he has to be out it's 4 games, not 4 weeks. Like, he has to miss even the game after the bye, the Colts game. But yeah, here's Dolphins struggling pretty much all around. Those are some of my notes. Dolphins offense starting each drive strong and killing themselves with bad play calls, and Skylar Thompson making some of the worst plays I've ever seen. Run game looked good for the most part. the run game will have to be good next week, but also the passing game has to definitely be better because, as I just talked about, the Titans are much better versus the run than they are versus the pass. But honestly, you probably win that game by just not making stupid decisions on offense and being a little bit better, obviously, but then the defense making Will Levis pay. But we'll see. I mean, it's not like I have a ton of faith right now, but things can change, I guess. The refs were horrible. Obviously, it didn't change the outcome of the game, but like, hey, refs, throw us a bone. If it's a horse collar, throw the horse collar penalty, please. The Dolphins need some help. Man. Defense slow to start game. What's up? Yeah, Skyler was terrible for sure. I think the Dolphins, from what I noticed, I still have to do the full breakdown on this, so I haven't like completely dug in on the defense yet. But from what I've noticed, basically how they had a good game against Seattle, because Seattle has a poor offensive line. Once they were able to like slow down the running game, the Dolphins pretty much got after Geno the whole time and made him pay on those third down situations. But when the Dolphins were kind of selling out to stop the run early on, and like the Dolphins pretty much on all the drives they gave up touchdowns, it was a lot of the quick passing games other than the big 70-yard play. The quick passing game where it was just like they were taking easy concepts to attack the Dolphins into like second level defenders, like they were attacking the linebackers and stuff like that. They were putting them in conflict. So they were kind of getting out schemed in those situations, but for the most part, I think they did a pretty good job. But I'll have like a full on opinion on the defense a little bit more as I watch the film. We think Huntley can be ready by next week? I hope so. I mean, it's tough to say. I mean, I'm not in the rooms, but we've seen QBs get up to speed in that timeline, so I think it's definitely possible. It's just the problem is the Dolphins system. They have to change. They really do. Like it has to be. It's honestly like, I think I had it written down. Yeah, like the Dolphins right now kind of have an identity crisis. And they tried to stick with what their identity was with Tua, and it's just not going to be the same with Tua out. So they kind of have to switch up the system. I think it would be stupid not to. I think they really felt like, hey, Skyler can run it. He's been here for 3 years. That wasn't the case. He was. So now you know, like, hey, Skyler's out with a rib injury. You're having Tyler Huntley or Tim Boyle play. God, I hope it's not Tim Boyle, but I hope it's Huntley. You got to change up the system. It's the only way. Just look at what the Packers are doing, man. Seven. Yeah, I agree. Definitely, it was a. I think Ryder feel bad for Skyler when dumping on him. McDaniel drafted him and failed to develop him. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to dump on him too bad, but he did play pretty bad football. Our secondary Swiss cheese. Our zone defense is terrible. Yeah, it is rough. We need to like have, I think, different responsibilities in those like pures. Like we get torn apart on first down in our zone concepts. I think the defense is so ready to like play the run that like when they're playing against zone, it's just like people are getting confused, especially at that second level and like the nickel linebacker area. And some people are playing undisciplined football. Defense, yeah, defense definitely not the issue. No, I'm not saying the defense wasn't the issue. There was problems with the defense. It wasn't perfect, but overall, I think they were pretty decent. Is it me or is with? They need to get away from the gimmick run scheme. Get Paul and like. I do think I think that was probably the most optimistic sign though from this week is when they did run the ball. I think they did go away from the more of the gimmick run scheme. They did still do it a little bit, but it definitely wasn't as common. They did get a little more power heavy. My only problem is when they didn't run the ball enough. But when they did run it, I liked what the concepts were for the most part, except for the short yardage ones. So I think that could be seen as a somewhat positive, I guess, is that when we did run the ball, it was mostly effective and less of the toss stuff. Because that stuff ain't working. Is it me or even with Tua the Dolphins are no longer throwing over the ball? Everyone goes outside even with pre-Tua injury. It seems like Lee has Justin. We haven't. Yeah, I think they definitely. I understood to an extent. I understand why they weren't throwing as much in the middle just because of how teams were playing them. But there were still opportunities, I think, for them to attack the middle of the field, and they just didn't run as many concepts to do it. So I do think they should definitely go back to that a little bit. I'm a little skeptical the defense would have played as good if we were able to score more, but they did give the offense chances. Yeah, I think the thing with the defense is like I'm not like completely sold on them either direction. Like I've seen the positives and I've seen like there's definitely clear negatives, and I think that's kind of how the defense will be throughout the year, at least for a while. I think there will be a point where the defense like really kicks up a notch because they get spent time in the system. But I think at least for a while, like I could see them having games where like they're pretty good or games where I'm like, they're below average. But I don't think they're ever going to be like your main issue for now because at least not with what the Dolphins have at quarterback, like the offense is going to be kind of what gives you the chance or not. Could it be false positive because Seattle weak spot is the run? Yeah, well, I think it's less because, well, no, with what I was saying, I think it was the positive that the Dolphins, when they did run the ball, it was more of they ran power and stuff. They didn't do as many of the gimmicky tosses. They only did it a few times, which I'm fine with. It's less to do with like the success of it and them just being like, oh, we're actually going to run it. That's kind of what I meant by that. But yeah, it could be a reason they did run it well is because it was for Seattle. But I do think like against the Bills, they did run those concepts well. Also against the Jaguars, when they ran the ball, they ran the ball too, or they ran the ball interior well. Don't shift blame. This doesn't help. They both have not been good enough. This offense has not been good dating back to second half last season. Are you talking about someone else or me? Because I wasn't shifting any blame. As bad as Skyler is, I still cut White as well into the 53. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people saying bring Mike White back. Sure, fine. He might play a little bit better, but I don't think White's the answer either. I haven't seen Ultra yet to say the game plan was default. Yeah, I've seen the All-22. It definitely... McDaniel definitely deserves like a decent amount of blame for that game. Obviously, there's only so much you can do with how bad the quarterback play was, but also you probably deserve some blame for that as well. But the Dolphins got themselves into good positions and pretty much took them out of that position many of times, whether it was McDaniel or the offensive execution. But yeah, let me see what else I got. Skyler, yeah, okay. I've harped on Skyler enough. I don't need to say these Skyler negatives on my notes. I just haven't read that yet. Yeah, Dolphins messed up many good field position opportunities that the offense kind of created themselves. Like the defense gave them decent field position, but the offense, it's like from the kick return, like they got themselves in good field position. It just literally they got past the 50 and forgot how to play football. It was crazy. I think linebacker play has been too inconsistent. Like they have their flashes, like Jordan Brooks and David Long, but just overall it's too consistent. I know David Long got hurt too, so we'll see. I know Anthony Walker came in, but I haven't watched Walker specifically yet, so I don't know how he played, but it wasn't like, by that point it was pretty much over. Sealer was really good. Hand made a nice sack. Calais Campbell was also quite good. Holland got beat deep. He was playing way too aggressive in cover 2. Seattle went play action. It was one of the few times where we weren't able to get any pressure on Geno, and he just had so much time in the pocket, and they went over the top. Losing Kendall Fuller is rough, so hopefully he can return, because not having Kendall Fuller would be tough. Yeah, Dolphins style of offense it's just not built to play without Tua. And this goes back to Shanahan. I think McDaniel's in that same kind of part with Shanahan. Before Shanahan found Purdy, all he had was Garoppolo. And when Garoppolo missed time, they were in a very similar situation to what the Dolphins are in. They need to be able to adjust more like with what the Packers are doing, like LaFleur, and they're just playing good, smart football. Yeah, and the Dolphins offense has a ton of penalties. Yeah, I think they lead the league in most offensive penalties, which is ridiculous. Ryder, weren't you the one who said go for option D, put in a claim for Bailey Zappa on the Chiefs first one? I don't know. I don't think that was me. I do think they should still look for quarterback play because I think Skyler should be put on IR or cut. I don't think Tim Boyle's an answer. Even though Tim Boyle played pretty decent, I don't think that will continue. And I would try to roll with Huntley, but we don't know how Huntley's going to look. But yeah, we'll see how that plays out. Top 10 players I'd rather put a claim in. I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look at it, but maybe I could do a video like that. Skyler doesn't even look like a training camp. Not Bill. Everybody here, maybe. I don't know what's happening there. Okay. As an in-game, okay. Got arguments going on in chat. Okay. I'll stay out of it. Okay. Might be draft season soon, guys. If this continues versus the next few teams, it might be draft season, which I do love draft season. So if it starts a little bit early, even though it sucks to wait all season just for it to be over so quickly. But it is still early, so things can change. Hopefully it does. I have still so many penalties written in all caps. The pre-snap stuff. I talked about this a little bit earlier. The pre-snap. Dolphins are so complicated pre-snap, and I get it helps out with the angles and leverage and how it can create advantages. And I think that's fine, but and you can still do it, but it's just way too much with 2 out. It should only be on certain situations, certain play calls. It doesn't need to be every play like it is with these backups in there. It puts so much on their plate just to think about pre-snap that when they get to post-snap, they don't know what's going on. When Tua is out or even returns. Wait, okay. When Tua is out, yeah, I think so. With Tua out, I've talked about becoming a run-first team. I think even when Tua returns, I think the Dolphins should be a run-first team because that's just like how the offense, like the NFLs are kind of looking right now. I think it's how you control the game, and it just makes your life easier on the quarterback. And I think that could help make the offense more consistent, even with Tua, because I think that would help him out a lot. And then, it doesn't have to be like that every game, because that's just that is like a very basic statement to make. And it just depends on the game. I just think the Dolphins need to be better at, using the right play in the right situations. It's not always just about run the ball more, pass the ball more. It's just being situationally smart and not having those big negatives that really kill you in the positive situations that you just had. If we continue to lose, what do you think about trading Tyreek to a contender in order to mass draft capital to move up and take a QB? I think it depends on the plan. It's tough. I don't know. I still think you're in a win now window. Even though the team's faltering right now, you're still put yourself into a window where you kind of need to win now. Unless you are truly going to blow up and restart, I wouldn't do that. But if you are going to truly blow it up and restart, move on, then yeah, I could see that happening. But all right, I watched it. I would hope. Oh, Jalen Coker. I would like that. I liked Coker. Yeah. Practice squad guy. We did not play well with Tua either. Yeah, well, I agree. We definitely did not play well with Tua either, but you could clearly see that with Tua in there, you could clearly see that the offense had a lot of promise and the problems that were happening were still fixable. You could see that it would go up, I would say. The problem is with the backups in, you just don't see any sort of promise with this offense right now. We know with Tua in there what the offense can be. That's the kind of difference between that. Next year's QB class is weak. It's about developmental QBs next draft. Yeah, I mean, to me, I started thinking about it, honestly, CJ Stroud is the only successful quarterback really in the last 3 years of the last 3 drafts. Everyone else is either a bust or slowly developing. You don't know, they could go either way right now. Stroud's the only one who's a for sure thing. I wonder if teams are going to start taking more of the Jordan Love approach. Not necessarily they need to sit 3 years, but it seems like some of these quarterbacks take a while to develop. We're seeing Geno Smith 8 years in, how many ever years he's starting to look like a good quarterback. Sam Darnold for the Vikings is starting to look like a good NFL quarterback. Like, obviously, it's still only 3 games, but he's looked like one of the better quarterbacks in the league in Minnesota, and he's been in the league for a while now. So I wonder if they're going to take that approach, like, depending on how it plays out, because there's so many different options at this point that could play out with the Dolphins. But I wouldn't be against taking a quarterback to potentially sit and develop. And then they can also be like a good backup if Tua were to go down. Or if they start over, they start over. We don't know. What else? Let's see. Double engagement, not team. Let's see, at least a sense of urgency to address the guard. Our receiver spots, is there a lot out there? Not great, but hey, develop time. Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, Dolphins finally have a lot of draft picks. They haven't really had a lot of draft picks since McDaniel has been here. Like, the first 2 years, they only had 4 and 4. Last year, they finally had some, but it was like 6. Next year, they'll actually finally have some draft picks to work with. I don't know. We still don't know who's going to be the GM or the coach. Like, that could change, but... and I don't want to speculate too much. That's still so far away, but there will be more resources to work with, which could change things. Better, do you have to wear your glasses all the time? Not all the time, but I would be like, if I would be like squinting to read my chat, you know? I just don't have good vision. That's why I would have grabbed Mac Jones, an equal accurate quarterback from McDaniel. Well, I don't know about equal accurate. I'm not a huge Mac Jones guy, though. But we'll see. What else did I say? They just look sloppy. Unless things change soon, it might blow some things up. That's true. It's still early, so things can change, but they definitely look very sloppy. Definitely need to... Everywhere. Like, there's penalties all across the board. I don't want to be overreactionary because that is the nature of most people, and I understand it, like the overreactionary thing. It's just not who I am, but there is a lot of cause for concern and to be worried. But goddamn. The offense is not QB friendly like people think. It requires a very specific fit. Talked about this. This is why Shanahan has always struggled with certain players, because this offense is for a very specific quarterback. And the Dolphins only really have one of those, and he is on IR. Yeah, this is something I saw on Twitter, people talking about. Dolphins' total offense EPA yesterday was negative 25.33. That is absolutely insane. That's so crazy. Some of these teams put their backups in and somehow look better. Dolphins put their backup in and they become the worst team in the league. Better, any interest in Russell Wilson? For this offense? No. Russell Wilson is probably one of the worst fits for this offense. He can't throw to the middle of the field. But I'm not I mean, he'd be a better quarterback than a lot of the players. Like, obviously he'd be better than Skyler, but Russell Wilson I just think is a terrible fit, so like you'd have to change up the system. Should have never let Jeff Ireland go. That's crazy. If Miami had a line with Wentz's arm strength, does Wentz still have a strong arm though? I don't know. I just think we throw Tyler Huntley out there and see what happens, you know? I think realistically, he's probably going to give you the best chance out of what you can actually get right now. And he's at least athletic. So maybe he'll make some plays with his legs, which would help. Look at what he's done in New Orleans. Yeah, they're having a good start to the year, but like, I don't really like New Orleans draft strategy. I actually don't think they've done a very good... If you looked at New Orleans before this season, they were looked at as like one of the worst teams. Like, yeah, they've started off pretty well. I mean, they blew the game versus Philadelphia yesterday. But no, I do not agree with the Jeff Ireland statement. I actually think that's crazy, to be honest. I think we're there's a lot of recency bias going on in those statements, to be honest. But yeah. Wentz would scare me. I don't even know if Wentz has anything left in the tank, to be honest. Offense, yeah, it's gonna be a long season. But they keep, yeah, it's gonna be a long season unless things change. Still some promise, but they keep killing themselves after every positive moment. Rand. Camellia. D-line was getting after in most situations. Crowd was playing a role in that game for sure. Penalties are crazy on special teams. Defense is making plays, but the inconsistency is keeping them from being legit. So I think the defense played pretty well, but there are some inconsistencies that I think that is really keeping them from like really making their game take it to another level. What about a QB from Houston, Case Keenum? Or that's not that bad, Elwood. I wouldn't be mad with either of those options. Like, but yeah, I don't know if that's gonna happen. They would be those are pretty good scheme fits. So like, I wouldn't be mad if that was the move because they both have played they play in a similar system in Houston, and they've both, or Keenum has played in some other systems that are similar. So yeah, I would not be against that. I think Schefter. Well, that was just Schefter. He didn't have any sources. I know what the video you're talking about, Scotty, but that was just him speculating. Like that's what he would do. So I mean, I'm not against Thompson Robinson either. I'm a big fan of Thompson Robinson as a player. It's just I don't know if any of these guys save the Dolphins realistically, but we don't know. Dolphins just gotta kind of show some sort of promise until Tua comes back. But really, at this point, even if Tua comes back, it looks bad. Both teams, at one point, I remember writing this down during the game. It was late in the game, so I don't know what the final numbers turned out to be. But both teams were 1 of 17 on third downs at one point. So, damn. That was a good show. That's a good stat for the Dolphins D-line because they were getting after them. But Seattle does have a really bad O-line. Dolphins couldn't stop the quick passing game on first down. Sealer, dog. Tim Boyle looked way better than Skyler. Red zone offense is very bad. Very, very bad. I understand struggling this game, but this is the last game you can look this bad for a while. Seeing how they respond next week, I think will kind of be the tell-all for how the season goes. Because I expected them to lose to Seattle. I wanted it to look better. But I think the Tennessee game will be very telling. Because if it looks like that again, I think it's just chalked, like completely chalked. But the league is insane. Like, the league can really change. Like, I think a good example is the Rams. They looked horrible last week versus the Cardinals. Got blown out. And then they came out and looked pretty slow versus the Niners. And then somehow had a crazy comeback. Like, versus the 49ers. Like, things can change very quickly. And the Rams are in a very tough spot, too. Like, they lost a lot of people with injuries. Dolphins are playing like a bottom 5 team. Just so happens the Titans are also a bottom 5 team, so. I said that earlier. Dwayne Eskridge actually looked pretty good, surprisingly, on a couple snaps. Obviously, it's only a couple snaps. Jalen Wright needs to play more. But yeah, those were kind of the notes I had. Let's see. Are you and Ace per Head should do a show? Yeah, I've never really. I think Kyle Krabs and yeah, I think I've I obviously know who they are, but I've never like talked to them. I don't think. But yeah, I'd be down to like collab with some people, especially people who are, pretty smart. Because there's some people who I think are just doing it more like just to create drama and reaction. I'm just not really about that. We signed Carmen Jackson, to the practice squad. Yeah, I don't really have too high hopes for Carmen Jackson. I didn't watch his film, but I know I've seen a little bit. But we'll see how that plays out. Ryder, did you see the press conference day before the Seahawks game where McDaniel hinted at an exciting package? Not sure if that's something to watch out for in the Titans game. Well, he might have been talking about the first package, the play that he was talking about with the first one of the game with Jalen Wright, Devon Achane, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and then it was either Tanner Conner or Jonnu Smith, which it actually did work. Like when that was the package in the game, when that was the personnel package, that might have been what he was talking about because it was something a little bit new. It actually was pretty effective. It just wasn't run a ton, so that could have been what he was talking about. Locked on Dolphins, check it out. I know. Yeah, I've definitely seen some of Kyle's stuff. He's definitely very smart. He's more on the scouting side too. I think he does a lot of the NFL draft stuff. Similar to what I like to do. Yeah, Patrick Paul, one snap, he did maul that linebacker. Wasn't the best technique, but yeah, he definitely bullied that poor kid. But we'll see how that plays out. Wish Johnny would be more willing to block. Yeah, that would definitely be helpful. But we'll see. Even if obviously I feel like I was way more devastated after the Bills game just because I feel like when the Tua injuries happen, it just like really takes the wind out of me. I feel like that was like the energy of how a lot of people felt. I feel like going to the Seattle game, like obviously was disappointing, but it was kind of expected. I feel like everyone kind of expected it to an extent at least. So doesn't feel as bad. But I'll still be here all season for sure. Doing streams, making film breakdowns, regardless of what happens, whether it's positive, negative, win, lose. We'll try to give realistic takes. And if at some point we have to move towards draft season, maybe I'll start making like draft videos for like, it's probably too early for draft videos, but maybe I'll just like make them members only at first for a while and then I'll post them to the YouTube channel. But I'll maybe start making some draft videos just for fun, just because I love the draft anyways. Yeah. Paul, Hines, Brew, Ike, 8-ish line. I mean, I don't really have too much faith in Hines either. But but maybe they could do better in the system. But I didn't even watch Robert Jones that much in this last game. I kind of skimmed over Jones. If McDaniel's professional credibility was 10 out of 10 after week 1, what is it now? Well, some people might say it's 0. I'm not going to go that far just because I do want to be realistic and be like, hey, like obviously sometimes you want to be emotional, be like, dude, what are you doing? Fix it, turn it around. But like also he has led the Dolphins to only winning seasons. Obviously hasn't been perfect. Clearly plays better with Tua, but that's kind of a Shanahan thing. Like literally the Shanahan tree has always, like they kind of lucked into Brock Purdy. They can thank the Dolphins for hurting Jimmy Garoppolo in that game and giving them Brock Purdy, because every other time they lost Garoppolo, that team just fell apart. Dolphins have not lucked into someone like that. I don't know. Brother, you're saying we should be a channel member if you want to be. I usually I get like early access to all the videos, but like pretty much every video, but like the draft videos they would get, because I think I'm going to start doing draft videos fairly soon. Maybe not right away, but get those out there just because I like making draft content. Once I get all 22 for the draft, like college prospects, then have that for like really early access, because I don't think those need to go live for a while until it's like closer to draft season. Brewers most consistent O-line this far. Yes, I agree. Yeah, Brewer's playing well in this system. He definitely does a good job. Yeah. That was another game. I will have film breakdowns tomorrow on the defense, full defense, and then I will also, in the offensive breakdown I did today, I didn't get to do the second part of the game because the film wasn't out. It actually it was actually weird. It stopped when Skylar got hurt, weirdly enough. So like the second tomorrow will just be like how the offense looked when Tim Boyle came in, which it did look better. But like I just want to like point out some of the concepts that they were using, that type of thing, being like, oh, this kept it a little more simple. And like this is what they should be doing a lot of times. And it's not always like that easy. It's obviously easier said than done. But yeah. Find us a do-it-all tight end. Yeah, I will definitely look in the tight end class. I've looked at the tight end. I really wanted Sam Laporta 2 years ago. Last year, I didn't really like the tight end class that much. I liked Bowers obviously a lot, but he wasn't going to fall to the Dolphins. And then after that, the only real tight end I really liked was Ben Sinnott. But I didn't think the Dolphins would go after it. So I'll definitely look into the tight end class for sure. But I'll be looking at everybody. Tight end class. Dolphins might need help across the board pretty much everywhere after this season. New film breakdown on the special teams. Yeah, I wonder if how that would go. I mean, what is there to break down? Just be like, why is this guy lined up onside? Like, because that's the problem with special teams is they can't line up onside or they hold. The Dolphins actually have pretty good gunners too. They overall. Yeah, huge Laporta fan. Didn't he get hurt last weekend? Oh yeah, I heard he got hurt in that game. Unfortunate. But yeah, Laporta's been very good. I'm a big fan of players like that. I like all around, like well-rounded tight ends. How did you grade Ravens tight end Likely? I liked Isaiah Likely out of Coastal Carolina. He was a fun prospect. Really liked his yak ability coming out of Coastal Carolina. But yeah, I think I'm starting to drop frames, so probably should just end the stream anyways because it looks like the connection's falling apart. And I was